Listen now to the book, One Night with the Hybrid King, written by the author Anya Curves. If you want to buy the ebook, link in the description. Subscribe to the channel. Like and share. Chapter 56, Aria. Tell me, how's it been working at the palace? Nicole asks over the phone while I'm loading the kids' laundry into the washing machine. The sigh I let out is deep, almost as if I'm unearthing a hidden burden, before finally replying. Oh girl, the queen hates me. Tomorrow is her birthday party, which I organized. If it's not absolutely perfect, I'm pretty sure Queen Seraphina will have me thrown in the dungeon, I explain, trying to lighten the tension with a bit of humor, but the weight of the situation is evident in my tone. Nicole laughs, but concern lingers in her voice. Wow, Aria, what did you do to make her hate you so much? Nicole questions from the other side of the line. The question catches me off guard, even though it's predictable. I swallow hard as the real answer instantly comes to mind. I slept with her mate 5 years ago, and a few months ago, I let him kiss me again. It's a secret that burns in my chest like hidden embers, but what leaves my lips is far milder. Being born human, maybe? Who knows? You know royalty, they can find fault in anything. I try to keep the tone light, but my mind clings to the weight of what really lies beneath my relationship with Seraphina. Nicole lets out a laugh that calms me, and after asking about my pay and chatting briefly about my next steps at work, I realize how quickly time has passed. I hang up in a rush, leaving the laundry room behind and returning to the living room, where a pile of Thorn and Aloan's toys lies next to scattered children's books, messy yet endearing, just like them. A month and a half has passed since I started at the palace, and during that time, Caelum's presence has been constant. The few encounters we've had are charged with tension. His fiery gaze follows me, making my heart race, but I pretend nothing is happening and maintain my composure. With Alexander, the feeling is different. He appears at my house sporadically, always with an easy smile and a playful remark for my children, who run to him delighted. He's a loving and reassuring presence, someone they, and perhaps I too, are learning to value. Moments like these make me realize how his affectionate simplicity contrasts with Caelum's magnetic and dangerous complexity. Suddenly, the sound of running footsteps echoes through the house. Mommy, mommy. Thorn and Aloan's shouts cut through my wandering thoughts, pulling me back to reality. My 2 children come running into the laundry room. Aloan's face is flushed from running too much, while Thorn is only slightly out of breath. His tawny complexion takes after mine. We don't blush easily. I see the proud expressions on their little faces as they approach, and I immediately drop what I'm doing, focusing entirely on them. Look what we made for you, Mommy. Aloan announces, nearly bouncing with excitement. Thorn, more reserved, holds out his hand to show me a small braided cord, crafted with silvery and lilac threads that shimmer softly in the light. He holds it with a delicacy that melts my heart. The bracelet is simple, but crafted with such care that it seems to radiate a special energy. 2 small charms are attached to it, a crescent moon and 2 intertwined stars. Aloan's eyes shine as she watches me examine the gift, and I realize how this little object, so humble, is an expression of the love they feel for me. We want you to wear it tomorrow, Mommy, Thorn explains, his voice innocent and full of enthusiasm. Grandma said there's going to be a big party at your work, so we made this for you to wear. My chest fills with gratitude, and I can't help the sincere, emotional smile that spreads across my face. With careful movements, I slip the bracelet onto my wrist. It's a bit snug, but it's perfect just the same, as if it were made precisely for me. Every thread lovingly woven by hand. It's beautiful. Thank you so much, my loves. I crouch down to their level, my voice overflowing with affection as I pull them into a tight hug. I feel their little arms wrapping around me, the familiar scent of Aloan's hair, and the gentle touch of Thorn, soothing any lingering anxiety I might have about tomorrow's event. Aloan's words add a magical touch to the moment. The 2 little stars are us, and the little moon is you, Mommy. Just like the moon you wear around your neck, she explains with a small smile on her lips. For a moment, time seems to stand still. I soak in every detail of this instant, the softness of their touch, the warmth of their little bodies against mine, and wonder if, in some way, they feel the burden of worry I carry, the weight of the choices I've made, and the fate that might either bind us together or tear us apart. Then Thorn surprises me. We also made it so you won't be scared tomorrow, Mommy. Daddy didn't want to hurt you, he says in a soft whisper, almost lost amidst the sounds around us. I pull back, ready to question what he just said, but my mother's voice rings out from the other side of the house. You little troublemakers. Get back here and clean up this mess. Lyra shouts with a severity that startles even me. Eloan giggles mischievously and Thorn joins in, exchanging a knowing glance with me. Oh, Grandma's mad, Eloan says with a playful laugh, and I nod in agreement. Go on, go clean up your toys. Mommy needs to finish up here. Aria, you arrived quite early today. Is everything all right? Asher asks, a hint of surprise lacing his usually calm tone. The surrounding atmosphere carries the peace typical of the first rays of morning light, softly illuminating the cold stone walls of the kitchen and reflecting off the gleaming utensils freshly washed. I offer a small but determined smile as I turn to face him, absorbing the tranquility of his presence while trying to control the restlessness pulsing in my chest. I stand before a mountain of dishes, still damp from the touch of water trickling off their surfaces. The marble sink is surrounded by plates used in the preparation of delicacies, meticulously planned for tonight's important event. My fingers still clutch a damp sponge, its rough texture grounding me as I try to stay present. Tonight's the party. I don't want anything to go wrong, I declare, my voice tinged with worry. Tension manifests as a slight stiffness in my shoulders, but Asher, ever observant, notices immediately. He steps closer, gently rubbing my back as if to transfer some of his calm to me. I feel the weight and security of his large, protective hand, almost covering my entire back, and the touch is a fleeting relief, an anchor keeping my mind from drifting into anxious thoughts. Everything will turn out fine. You've done a fantastic job, Asher says in a soothing, reassuring voice. I've seen the decorations in the main hall, and the entrance too. They're magnificent. His words sound like a sweet melody to my ears, and I feel my heart slow a little. I take a deep breath, allowing relief to replace my anxiety. Will the queen like it? I ask, apprehension lacing my tone. Deep down, I know I'm not seeking praise, only the silent approval of the queen. She's the figure behind every detail, and all I want is to meet her expectations. I need her approval, nothing else. Asher sighs, his expression growing more serious. If she hadn't liked it, you'd definitely know by now, Aria, he states firmly, and I nod in agreement. Well, I'll leave you to your work. I need to oversee security. As I watch him walk away, a pang of nostalgia for his comforting presence washes over me, but I quickly refocus. Taking a deep breath, I turn back to face the pile of dishes awaiting me, alongside the pastry chefs bustling around. Their movements resemble a silent ballet of precision and skill, each step deliberate and graceful. After arranging the main dishes in the kitchen, I ensure everything is prepared and spotless before heading to the main hall. Upon arrival, I'm greeted by a scene that fills my eyes and heart with pride. The decoration chosen by Queen Seraphina is a masterpiece, a true tribute to royalty. Cool tones dominate the hall, with flowers in soft hues arranged in large, ornate vases, their delicate fragrances perfuming the air with an almost mystical touch. Graceful columns, crafted by enchantresses specially hired by the queen, rise elegantly, their intricate patterns and details seeming alive under the subtle influence of magic. Beyond the columns, mystical creatures like unicorns and fairies roam, floating and moving through the space, leaving behind an ethereal trail of light and enchantment. At the center of the hall, a massive magical waterfall cascades gently, showcasing fish in impossible, vibrant colors that shimmer as though forged from pure magical energy. The extravagance of the setting blends with a refined subtlety, and for a moment my gaze lingers, admiring the meticulous work that has come to life before my eyes. Chapter 57 Aria. Aria, the first guests are already arriving. A staff member approaches me, her tone hurried, pulling me back to reality. Expectation hangs thick in the air, and I feel urgency seize me once again. I rush back to the kitchen, where I find waiters and waitresses lined up, a picture of discipline and perfection. Each one is impeccably dressed, their uniforms pristine and their gazes focused, ready to serve the royalty and noble guests. The sight flashes me back to my first time in the castle, Malik's words echoing in my mind like a guide for the moment ahead. Taking the lead, I inhale deeply before fixing my determined gaze on each of them. All right, everyone. Here's the plan. For the next 2 hours, you'll circulate through the hall with canapes and drinks. After that, dinner will be served, and we'll present the dishes with all the skill we've got. My voice carries a note of authority but also encouragement, and I notice everyone listening intently, their posture straight. Don't look at anyone, don't talk to anyone. We need to ensure our king and queen, especially the queen, are pleased. Understood. Their response is a symphony of yes in unison, echoing throughout the kitchen. Their discipline and commitment fill me with pride, knowing we are ready, all of us, to tackle the challenges of this night. For the first 2 hours, everything unfolds flawlessly. In the kitchen, the frenetic rhythm persists, with cooks and assistants moving like gears in a clock, each performing their role, while I try to stay focused. My eyes scan the piles of dishes, the prepared trays, checking if everything is impeccable. My heart beats with anxiety but also with pride. The hall is perfect. Suddenly, a soft, familiar voice cuts through the chaos, bringing everything around me to a halt. Aria! Alexander's voice stands out amid the kitchen noise. My heart races, pounding like a drum. I turn to him, and there he is, standing in the kitchen doorway, looking at me with a slight smile that brings memories of the past rushing back. For a moment, I lose my breath. The sight of him stuns me. His light brown hair is slicked back, revealing the sharp lines of his face. His blue eyes, deep and intense, seem to trap me in an inescapable tide. He's dressed in a black suit that accentuates his broad shoulders and hides the body I know so well. My mind wanders for a second, recalling the contour of his arms, the warmth of his skin. But I can't let myself get lost in thoughts. Taking a deep breath, I try to maintain composure. What on earth are you doing here? This is my workplace. My voice comes out slightly shaky, betraying my unease. I speak quickly, keeping my eyes fixed on him, trying to block out any other thoughts. Alexander only smiles, a mischievous smile that plays on the corners of his lips, as if he knows exactly what he's doing to me. Without hesitation, I grab his hand, leading him out of the kitchen. The doors swing shut behind us, muffling the sounds of the bustling activity inside. In the hallway, the music and chatter from the hall echo like a distant whisper. The gazes of other staff members briefly cross ours, but I press on, determined to get him out of here as quickly as possible. Finally, he stops and looks at me with that serious expression that has disarmed me so many times before. I came to talk to you. I need to tell you something important, Alexander says, his voice heavy with an urgency almost unusual for him. My frustration grows, mixed with the restlessness he provokes. Now, you come to my workplace to tell me something, Alexander? I could get fired because of this. Did you crash the party? Are you here as an uninvited guest? My words come out fast and sharp, but the fear of losing my job suffocates me. No, I'm not crashing anything. I can help you, what do you think? Since you're so busy, I don't mind staying in the kitchen with you. Alexander suggests, a glint of challenge in his eyes. I blink at him, stunned by the proposal. I don't know how to react, words caught in my throat, but before I can formulate a response, another deep, authoritative voice breaks the silence. Alexander. Caelum's voice sounds like thunder, full of authority that vibrates through the hallway. Caelum approaches with firm steps, his eyes locked on both of us, especially on Alexander, with an air of reprimand and disapproval. Immediately, I curtsy, feeling a wave of submission overwhelm my body. I raise my gaze discreetly and observe the difference between the two men standing before me. Caelum stands tall, his shoulders firm, and his posture straight, every movement radiating power and control. There's a hardness in his face, a mixture of disapproval and disdain, that makes me want to shrink. His gaze flicks over me quickly, but then settles on Alexander, whom, until this moment, I didn't even know they knew each other. What are you doing here, Alexander? Disrupting Aria in her work. Caelum's voice is cold, a sentence of reproach with no room for appeal. He stares at him with an intensity that could cut diamonds, and Alexander holds the gaze calmly, though a shadow of discomfort crosses his face. Alexander takes a deep breath and, without hesitation, replies, I came to help her, mate. Mate! The word echoes in my mind, repeating like a distant echo. They're related? My surprise is so great that I feel the ground slip beneath my feet. I try to absorb the revelation as I watch them, for the first time noticing the resemblance in their features, in the contours of their faces. A noble like you cannot be seen helping a common servant, Caelum declares with a voice full of contempt that makes me want to shrink into place. I've already told you, mate, I wouldn't mind giving up any title I have to be with Aria. Alexander's words make my heart race even faster. The tension between them escalates, each holding their ground without backing down. Caelum narrows his eyes, a look of disdain mixing with the rigidity of his posture.
Chapter 58, Seraphina. I didn't think I would see you again, Karen, I declare, my voice full of tenderness and surprise. His hand touches my face, rough, and that simple touch travels across my skin like an electric shock, a delicious shiver running from my cheek down to my chest, consuming me entirely, reaching deep within me. When he speaks, the deep, raspy sound of his voice reverberates through the stone hall. There's an almost primal urgency in his tone, something that makes me tremble, that evokes every memory and every touch we shared in the past. Everything you ask of me, Seraphina, I will do. He doesn't hesitate, there's no fear in his eyes, and that excites me even more. His lips are so close to mine that I can feel the warmth of his breath. And then he kisses me, with a hunger almost violent, consuming me and pressing me against the stone wall behind us. His kiss is fierce, an intense game of dominance and submission that steals my breath and my reasoning. And I let myself go, surrendering to the pleasure that rises like a high tide, suffocating and inevitable. Karen pulls me closer, his skilled hands exploring every contour of my body, squeezing, claiming, as if he's determined to make me remember every sensation he can provoke in me. My eyes close involuntarily, and I am completely at the mercy of every kiss, every touch he plants on my skin. My body responds to him as if it were made for this, to bend to his will, to feel the euphoria of surrender. Karen, I whisper, through moans, my voice trembling, and he smiles in an almost predatory way, his violet eyes sparkling as his hands glide over my body, tracing the curves he knows so well. I feel his agile fingers entwining with the lace of my dress, touching me with precision, as if every movement is calculated to maximize my pleasure, and that drives me into a state of absolute desire. I am a chaos of emotions, of raw need, my thoughts consumed only by this moment by him. And, even in the midst of this storm of sensations, my goal remains clear. He is the key to my plans, the path to the vengeance that burns in my chest like fire. My body trembles with desire, but my mind is sharp, completely focused on what I need. I want the destruction of that damned human, I declare between moans, the intensity of my words mixing with the pleasure he gives me. I want the destruction of my husband. I want the salvation of Syltirion. My words fill the air, laden with anger and determination. Karen looks at me with a dark glint in his eyes, as if my declaration has ignited something inside him. His hands continue to explore, and his voice, low and intense, reaches my ears. I know the perfect spell to accomplish what you desire, my Seraphina. His tone is one of promise, a solemn vow mixed with overwhelming desire, and the effect of that on me is overwhelming. He knows the power he holds over me and uses it without remorse, his fingers teasing my body, provoking and dominating. That promise takes me completely, and I feel a wave of euphoria rise like a spark spreading through my body, igniting every piece of skin he touches. I don't care what he will do to fulfill my wish. I don't want to think about the consequences or the extent of his actions. I simply move forward to kiss him again, desperate, letting the longing for his touch and the repressed desire of all these months consume us. He moves even closer, his body pressing against mine, and the heat of him surrounds me like a wave that I cannot and do not want to contain. At this moment, there is no world outside, no queen, no kingdom. There is only Karen, his touch, his scent, his gaze that takes me over entirely. I want him to possess me, to be mine as I am his, and all the pain, all the fury and longing I carry explode in my chest. While I am bound to him, I feel that nothing can stop us, that the world is ours to bend to our will. The grimoire I hold between my fingers is dense and ancient, with worn leather covers and a cold texture that seems to absorb the light from the room. The yellowed, brittle pages are filled with intricate symbols and forgotten words, written in an ancient dialect known by few. The dim lights of the hotel room, nearly extinguished, cast deep shadows over the pages and the body of Karen, who rests beside me, emanating a dangerous, seductive calm. I never knew about this spell before, Karen. Will it work? I ask, flipping through the grimoire Karen gave me. When he brushes a strand of hair from my face and places a kiss on my neck, I feel a wave of shivers travels down my spine, and the warmth of his mouth, mixed with his hot breath and the woody scent he carries, fills the room. The scent of our moment is everywhere in the room, rumpled sheets, the lingering memory of desire still pulsing in the air, almost tangible. The walls seem to vibrate with the echo of our presence, as if every detail around us captured a part of this intimate instant and will keep it forever. Yes, I've used it myself in a battle years ago. We don't use it much because of the moon. Only with it can the spell be cast. Karen replies calmly, his warm breath tickling my ear. Yes, I used this spell in battle years ago, he murmurs, his deep voice invading my thoughts as his fingers slide along the side of my face. The firm yet gentle touch makes my heart race, and the unspoken promise in his words brings forth my imagination, conjuring scenes of destruction and chaos for those who dared to cross my path. But it can only be cast with the full moon, he adds, his violet eyes seeming to glow as he mentions the celestial body. The gleam in his eyes is almost hypnotic, like a universe of his own, and I feel a thrill of excitement knowing that the full moon will bring the power needed for my revenge. My birthday party will be on a full moon, I say, a smile forming on my lips. I feel the morbid pleasure grow, a dark burning that feeds my determination, while Karen's touch anchors me in this relentless desire. He holds my gaze and responds with a voice heavy with pride and devotion. There will be no better gift for you than this spell, then Seraphina. His expression is so intense that I almost feel his satisfaction in providing me with what I desire. He understands my ambitions, my grudges, and it is precisely that understanding that binds me to him. I turn my body, pressing him against the rumpled sheets, and I feel every fiber of my being scream with the strange joy of having Karen here with me, sharing the same thirst for revenge and destruction. Thank you, Karen, I whisper, and I feel the sincerity in my own voice. This thanks are layered with much more than gratitude. It's the acknowledgement that he is, perhaps, the only one who truly understands me. I hold his gaze, but my voice falters as I expose the next words, which seem to weigh heavier than the spell in the grimoire. I wish I had gone with you that night, months ago. I wish I could have left all of this behind, left Caelum, the title, and run away with you. But my voice weakens. It's a painful confession, and I feel as if by saying these words, I am tearing something from deep within me. He, with a tenderness he rarely shows, places his hand under my chin and lifts my gaze to meet his. You have a duty greater than your love for me, Seraphina, he says, and his soft voice carries wisdom that wounds and comforts at the same time. The mention of Syltirion brings forth memories that are always latent, like a wound that never heals. My kingdom, my home. The longing invades me, along with the growing fear that Syltirion, with all its magic, may succumb. Our kingdom is dwindling with magic. The land is growing weak. I don't know how we will survive the coming years, Karen finishes, and the weight of his words hits me like a cold blade. My heart shatters at the state of our old home, and at the same time, determination burns fiercer within me. Every cell in my body rebels against the idea of Syltirion becoming a barren, lifeless, magicless land. I look at Karen and feel his pain as well. He sees the suffering of our people, feels the anguish it brings. And it's this need for revenge and to rescue our home that moves me, that makes me accept the weight of my decisions. I just wish that damn human didn't exist. If Caelum didn't have her as a lover and make children with her, I would already be free of this marriage. Free to cast the spell with his bloodline and save Syltirion. That's the only reason I agreed to marry him. I rant in anger. 5 years in a marriage that was already doomed from the start. Karen watches me, and I see in his eyes a mixture of understanding and sorrow. He sighs, and his next words reveal something he had kept to himself until now. I admit that, when we parted, I thought you might perhaps come to love the lycan, he confesses, his voice low but firm. I thought the child you would have with him might awaken something in you for the king. Never. Things with Caelum, at least at the start of the marriage, were calm. There was at least fun, but love, I don't think so. Not from my side, at least. The sex, I won't lie, was good. He figured out what I liked, and I figured out what he liked, I tell Karen honestly. But without the arrival of a child, all the curiosity, the fun was replaced by duty, bitterness, and resentment. And after the assault he made on me because of that miserable human, I don't even have respect for him anymore. Karen stares at me, his penetrating violet eyes fixed on my golden ones. And for a moment, we share a deep silence, where all the insecurities, frustrations, and resentments intertwine. More than words, what we exchange now is the essence of our souls, wounds, and scars exposed, but without fear of being seen. Whenever you need me, Seraphina, whether to kill weak humans or to warm your bed, call me, and I will come, Karen whispers, his voice so close that I feel the heat of his words against my skin. This promise is like a vow, sealed in fire and blood, and my heart tightens. I embrace him tightly, feeling every muscle, every beat of his heart against mine. And then, in a soft, needy whisper, I let slip, and if I call you to love me, will you come too? Always, he replies, with a certainty that echoes deep within my soul, filling a void I've carried for so long. Chapter 59, Seraphina. I admit, in silence, the impeccable skill of Aria in organizing my party. The pathetic human fulfilled every instruction I gave with dedication, putting effort into every detail, shaping the hall to my height. At the center of the hall, some guests dance, moving with a fluid grace to the music played by the lycan musicians, whose talent reveals itself with every note. It is a hypnotic melody, almost mystical, reverberating through the hall, echoing off the marble columns. The music grows in intensity, blending with the muffled sound of laughter and conversation from those present. Everyone seems enchanted, hypnotized by the banquet and the festivities, a flawless spectacle carefully designed to honor me. The dinner, served with dishes so elaborately crafted they resemble works of art, features the most refined flavors the kingdom has ever known. Complex tastes dance on the tongue, prepared with rare ingredients by lycan chefs trained to impress even the most discerning palate. With every bite, my guests seem immersed in gastronomic ecstasy, while I watch, with a slight smile of superiority, the result of my sovereignty. Everything is perfect, exactly as I planned. Caelum stays close to me, attentive, but his presence is almost suffocating. He tries to please me, acting pathetically and submissively, as if somehow this could fill the emotional gap between us. Before we came to the hall, he sought me out in our chambers, and in a moment of desire, we gave in to a brief and calculated tryst. And even while he possesses me, I can feel the distance. His thoughts aren't here with me. Of course, he fantasizes about Aria, just as I close my eyes and imagine that the one touching me is Karen. The irony of our secret fantasies never fails to make me chuckle inside. Since the fateful dinner when Alexander revealed his connection to Aria, Caelum has been wandering the castle with a sour mood, fury etched into every wrinkle that forms on his brow. His face only lights up, even though he tries to hide it. In the rare moments when he meets Aria in the corridors, their gazes crossing in coincidences he is forced. She, in turn, remains firm, ignoring his disguised attempts at closeness. I imagine the fear she feels towards me is greater than the repressed desire she feels for him. Or perhaps Alexander's presence distracts her. Caelum's cousin chatters during some meals or meetings about his spying missions and how it was to visit the pathetic human and her bastard children. This amuses me because Caelum squirms in his seat like a worm on a hook, trying to maintain diplomacy and indifference. With your permission, Your Majesty, Alexander's voice addresses me formally, but not without a hint of malice. I would like to speak with Aria. He lowers his tone, but his request reverberates through the hall. From the corner of my eye, I notice Caelum's gaze lift, cold and penetrating. Of course, dear. Go ahead, just don't disturb the poor girl, she's working. I inform him with false modesty, and he flashes a polite smile. Caelum follows his cousin with his eyes, his emotions boiling beneath the surface. With a cornered smile, I throw my provocation, poisoning the air between us. My king, if you keep this up, you'll end up souring the wine you're drinking. My voice drips with sarcasm. Aria and Alexander make a lovely couple, don't you think? Who knows, maybe one day she'll accept him as her husband. Perhaps, in honor of your cousin, you'll leave her be. After all, our marriage certainly hasn't accomplished that feat. My voice carries an intentional cruelty, a way to punish Caelum. Seraphina, avoid speaking nonsense that could cost you your crown or, perhaps, even your very head. He growls, his voice seething with rancor. And then, with latent anger, he leaves the table, leaving me with the sweet taste of victory. Alone, I savor the moment and watch the full moon, shining magnificently through the high windows, its silver rays flooding the hall like a celestial blessing. The spell I intend to cast soon depends on it, and its presence in the sky reminds me that the time has come. The night couldn't be more perfect, with everyone distracted by the party and their own ambitions. I excuse myself with elegant gestures to the nearby nobles, who watch me depart with discreet curiosity. I leave the hall, walking through the castle, my steps echoing through the shadowy corridors. The isolation of the area near the kitchen offers me the privacy I need. My heart beats firm and certain, and my mind already envisions the result of my spell. Everything is in motion like an invisible gear turning, bringing me closer to the power I crave. I cast one last glance at the castle behind me, confident that this night will be remembered as the beginning of a new chapter. One where my vengeance, my desire, and my destiny intertwine beneath the full moon's light. I begin to chant the spell with precision, each syllable reverberating like a deep echo in the chambers of my mind, every word laden with a dark intent that pulses, intense, at the center of my being. I feel the flow of power coursing through my body, a warm current that travels through my veins like liquid fire, inflaming my senses and awakening an energy long dormant. It is an overwhelming, ancient force that roots itself in my soul and rises untamable, expanding with every word I utter. The surrounding air thickens, heavy with the essence of magic, and I become one with this wild and voracious power. The spell is complex, an intricate web of magic that demands precision and absolute focus. To master such power, to force a transformation of the lycans, I spent nights in deep study and practice. The moon, majestic and full, dominates the sky, its silver light bathing the earth and intensifying the aura of mystery and power. It seems to grow, immense and imposing, as if it were about to touch the ground, emanating a primal energy that amplifies my magic, strengthening every cell in my body. Behind me, at the castle, I sense the agitation taking form even before hearing the first screams. They are sounds of surprise, horror, and despair, like a chaotic symphony rising and spreading through the corridors and halls. I smile, realizing that my will is being done, that my magic is passing through the walls of the castle, enveloping every lycan and forcing their transformations. Their resistance crumbles before my power. Every howl that erupts is a testament to their involuntary transformation. Each desperate scream of pain is confirmation that even Caelum, with all his strength and pride, is now vulnerable to my sorcery. It is the sacrifice I demand on my birthday, a sacrifice that will be remembered. The death of Aria. It is the gift I grant myself, the pleasure I've planned and manipulated with such precision. I see in my mind her horrified expression, the moment when she realizes that those she trusts, those she loves, will become the very beasts that will tear her apart. I wonder who, between Caelum and Alexander, will be the first to rip her flesh, to devour her last spark of life. The thought of her inevitable death fills me with satisfaction, for I know it will leave a deep and unbearable mark on Caelum's soul, a remorse that will consume him until the end of his days. Only after his suffering will I be satisfied. And then, when bitterness and pain have dominated him, I will go after Aria's bastards, the children who represent the shame of her betrayal. They too will disappear, leaving an even deeper wound. With the spell fully cast, I feel the bond between me and every lycan present. Their feral souls, trapped within human bodies, now respond to my commands, surrendering to the primal force that is revealed. I hear the nobles in the hall emit screams of terror, their voices cut short by confusion and panic as the creatures, these relentless werewolves, take form before them. The contorted bodies of the lycans tear through their clothes, and human skin is replaced by fur, claws, and sharp fangs. I feel their howls reverberate, piercing the night air and echoing through the walls of the castle, like a diabolical symphony orchestrated by my will. In the hall, the desperate nobles rush to escape, their luxurious clothes torn, their faces distorted by fear. Some stumble over the bodies already lying on the floor, while others scream as a lycan, now a machine of destruction, leaps upon them mercilessly. I smile triumphantly as I witness the scene before me, a vision of terror and power that is the most beautiful celebration I could have ever wished for.
Chapter 60. Aria. You two are cousins. I stammer, the question escaping almost as a whisper, lost in the dense tension that fills the air between us. My voice sounds fragile in comparison to the clash of forces and the intensity of the gaze that Caelum and Alexander exchange, challenging each other as if they were about to spring at one another. The revelation pulses in my mind like distant thunder, hard to process amid the whirlwind of emotions that consume me. Caelum's eyes narrow as he stares at me, his face a mask of cynical disdain, while Alexander closes his eyes for a moment, as though cursing himself for letting the truth slip out too soon. Then Caelum's laughter echoes down the narrow corridor, a mocking, derisive laugh that sounds like the clinking of broken glass, spreading through the room and sending a chill down my spine. Something in his expression unsettles me, a feeling that grows and settles heavily in my chest. You haven't told her yet who you really are, Alexander? Caelum asks accusingly, his tone dripping with sarcasm and a perverse pleasure in destabilizing his cousin. Alexander's response is a low, savage growl, a primal note that reverberates and intertwines with the air around us, thick with latent threat and animal instinct. The sound of that growl disturbs me deeply. My heart quickens and fear begins to creep in, cold and relentless. I was going to do that today. Now, actually, Your Majesty, Alexander responds through clenched teeth. But you, with your stupid way of meddling in everything that doesn't concern you, ruined it all, you idiot. His eyes flash with anger, and something inside him seems to shift, a dark fire burning beneath the surface, something wild and uncontrolled lurking just beneath. Never, in all the time we've spent together, have I seen Alexander lose control, not even once. Witnessing such aggression, almost tangible, makes me question what is happening before my eyes. The intensity of the situation seeps into the air, and the two of them seem like predators about to clash in a final confrontation, driven by a monstrous hatred that pulses in the air like an electric storm ready to burst. A sharp scream echoes in the distance, and the sounds of terrified voices spread, but before I can pinpoint where they are coming from, something changes. Suddenly, both of them begin to transform, right there before me, their bodies contorting, their faces twisted in pain and fury. Caelum and Alexander let out a ferocious howl that fills the space, reverberating through the walls of the corridor and mingling with the screams of terror from the guests trying to escape. The horror I feel paralyzes me. I've never seen a transformation so close, and the grotesque intensity pins me in place, my eyes fixed on their bodies as they begin to writhe. The transformation is brutal, a dance of pain and power that consumes every inch of them. Their clothes tear apart, disintegrating into rags, while their bodies expand, muscles bulging, bones cracking and reshaping in a macabre display of flesh and fur. I hear the sound of bones breaking and adjusting, a crack that fills my ears like the beat of a war drum. The smell of sweat and blood permeates the air, thick and inescapable, bringing with it a bestial and fierce aroma. Alexander falls first to the ground, his knees striking the floor in a heavy thud that resonates through the corridor. His body seems to tremble, each muscle fiber stretching, deforming into something non-human, something colossal and terrifying. The scraps of his clothing are scattered around him, and gradually his form stabilizes into a massive black wolf. A true monster with thick fur and glowing eyes like red embers, fixed on me with a look that mixes recognition and ferocity. Their sharp, gleaming fangs escape from their long snouts, exuding a silent and terrifying threat. The rigid fur, like armor, bristles with every breath, as if the very air around them were insufficient to contain the creature they've become. Beside him, Caelum completes his transformation, his posture just as threatening and ready to attack. The sound of their ragged breaths, the scent of their fury, and the weight of their stares burn my skin, and I finally realize the overwhelming danger I'm about to face. The figure of Caelum in his transformed state brings to mind the wolf that helped me the last time I was here, the difference lying precisely in the eyes. The white wolf had red eyes, while Caelum's are golden. "Guys, it's me, Aria." My voice slips out in a calculated whisper, where calm sounds more like a thin veil, concealing the growing chaos within me. I raise my hands slowly, trying to soften the insane fury in their eyes, attempting to see beyond the beast they've become, desperate to bring Alexander and Caelum back from wherever they're trapped in this whirlwind. The suffocating tension of the corridor, narrow and now much more claustrophobic with the threatening presences, closes around us, and for a moment, I feel the space shrink, compressed by this intense and dangerous atmosphere. Every scream that echoes from the nearby hall rips through the castle's silence, merging with the wild howls and deep growls that, together, create a chaotic symphony of utter terror. What the hell is going on here? The sound of screams intensifies, until howls and growls rise amidst the cacophony of despair unfolding in the hall. The corridor I'm in feels much tighter with the imposing presence of two werewolves. In a flash, someone from the kitchen appears in the corridor, running like a cornered animal, the urgency in their movements drawing the creature's attention away from me. It's my chance, an unexpected miracle that finally allows me to escape the narrow, suffocating corridor. Without hesitation, I turn and run toward the garden, feeling my footsteps echo like hammer blows amid the uproar of voices and chaos unfolding behind me. I can hardly believe I'm reliving all of this. A bitter irony seeps into my mind as I wonder if it's impossible to attend a party in this castle without it ending in a bloodbath. The garden, which should be a refuge of peace and beauty, is now a field of destruction. I run with other staff and guests, all in panic, trying to escape the claws of these furious wolves that spread like a deadly shadow across the green lawn. Amid the plants that once radiated serenity, there are now shattered bodies, desperate screams mixing with howls, creating a scene that transcends terror. I feel my heart race even faster in my chest as I search for the main entrance of the castle, an escape that seems like my only chance. But just before I can reach the desired safety, I'm confronted by two more werewolves, their massive, intimidating figures blocking my path with a brutality that takes my breath away. So close that I can see their sharp fangs escaping from their bloodied snouts, the sinister gleam in their hungry eyes. The panic envelopes me, and I try to change direction, but my feet fail, I trip and fall, the impact with the ground pulling a sob of despair from my lips. The damp ground beneath me seems to want to swallow me whole as I realize, terrified, that my escape may be coming to an end. I feel the air compressing, and time seems to drag as one of the werewolves approaches me, its claws extended, ready to pin me to the ground. Its mouth opens in a grotesque growl, and the sound escapes like a deadly roar that echoes through the night. My mind screams in panic, a silent scream that explodes through my veins as the massive wolf prepares to sink its fangs into my neck. Just when I think it's over, I am suddenly shaken to the side, a brutal impact dragging me through the grass, and an excruciating pain rips through my shoulder. Rolling, stunned until I stop in the bushes, I feel the cold, damp grass against my skin, but the pain in my shoulder is what brings me back to reality. Every inch of my flesh seems to burn with fire as I watch the scene unfolding before me. Another wolf appears, its presence like a silent storm, a white wolf with red eyes that seems to emerge from the shadows like an avenging ghost. It attacks the wolf that was about to kill me with a ferocity that is both terrifying and mesmerizing. The white wolf's fangs tear into the opponent's flesh, and a brutal fight unfolds, with the sound of cracking bones and tearing flesh echoing in my chest, making it hard to distinguish what is pain and what is fear. The pain in my shoulder is unbearable, a searing burn running from my shoulder down my arm, where I now see the deep, open cut that bleeds and trickles down my skin, staining the grass with a scarlet trail. My vision is blurry, my field of view narrowing to a single point as pain and shock compete to consume me. Even so, I muster the strength, stumbling to get up, each movement aching as if my muscles are being torn apart once more. With blurred vision and a wounded body, I begin to move toward the exit, stumbling and forcing myself to continue, accompanied by the other staff and guests. Desperation fills the air. I just want to get to the castle's exit. I just want to go home, to my children. If you like it, subscribe, share, comment, and like. If you want to read the book, link in the description.